Peace and blessings, beautiful ones. This is Dr. Akua with The Mark, the Impact, and the Legacy, a life of peace at 20 years. Thank you so much for joining us today. And all of the other nights that you've joined us, we really appreciate you following us in this part of our journey of celebrating community service, wellness, and just the honoring of those who have been a part of our journey over these last 20 years. And this evening, we have a beautiful young lady with us who is an elder in the community and whom I have known for possibly even before Life of Peace came into formation.
You know.
Beyond 20 years. Um, and I want to introduce you all to, I have to say, Mama. Mama Hitaji Aziz. And she is going to be talking with us today about wellness business. You know, many of us set out to go into the wellness business, and we find ourselves being faced with the ups and downs of business because it's not just wellness when you go into business, but to be able to be anchored in the community and to stay there for a length of time is a rare occasion in the wellness business. So I want us to talk to Mama Hitachi today about what it's like and how do the young people that are coming after us in terms of the impact and the legacy that we are making as healers to be able to sustain their businesses for a length of time and make them permanent structures in the community. So, Mama Hitaji, would you
Yeah.
like to do an introduction and then we'll jump right into the conversation?
Well, one thing I want to do is ring my bell to call in our ancestral spirits, to recognize, to notice how important the unseen is, to recognize the land space that I'm sitting on, to recognize the people who have passed, to recognize Miss Sister Khadija that just passed. You know, that's big to recognize Asata Shakur and the transition that she has made, to recognize all of those people who we don't know and did know that are no longer on the planet, but still here helping us to recognize ourselves. That's how I would introduce this space. That's what I'm feeling. But what keeps coming up as I listen to you talk is this little colored girl in McKees Rocks near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that kind of woke up one day and they called her Sheila. Sheila Kirkland was my what I call my slave name. And I was 13 years old, and just like in the Matrix, it felt like the good Lord had pulled something out of my head, and I woke up. And from the beginning of that, I believe that Spirit planted the seeds of taking care of business, that I would always have some kind of business that had something to do with liberation. That I would have a business that would have something to do with liberation, not only liberation of a people, but liberation of myself. That my business would be a reflection of my recovery from being birthed into a Black family system that was an alcoholic family system, that was a sexually abusing family system, that was a violent family system, that had incorporated the chattel slavery of oppression so deeply that that little colored girl woke up. And I have worked out of that kind of vessel all of my life, whether it's my vessel or someone else's vessel. But one of the things that I noticed today as we talk today, that if you don't work on your stuff, your mess, your woundedness, your hurts, that it would always bleed into your holistic work, not just the holistic wellness work as a business, but in our nonprofit work. I mean, most of the Black women that I know have bled into the nonprofit and their personal wellness businesses. I mean, we We're like like-minded. We have sat in the chairs of shape. We have done NBUF. We have done prison programs. We've done this. KPFT, I was there for 36 years producing radio there and started at WAMO in Pittsburgh when I was 16 doing radio there, and started when I was 15 when I started my African American history program in the bottom of a project that I was raised in. So it's like when people say, "What do you do?" Sometimes I don't know how to explain it. It's that, and it's this, and it's this, and it's that holistically. I used to daydream that I could just have a regular job, a regular 9 to 5, maybe even serving coffee somewhere, or go pick up the donuts or whatever. But I it didn't fit me. I had to mold something that recognized my spirit, that recognized my energy and my passion, that recognized my rage, that recognized my love. And that was called the business, Peacemaker Enterprise. And it's Peacemaker Enterprise because I had to find the peace in me. I had to recognize that the way I was born for a purpose that I probably won't understand the whole purpose of being born in that family system until I'm not here on the planet. But it shaped me in such a way that my passion has never gone away. It's never gotten smaller. It's never when somebody says, "Well, when are you gonna retire?" Because I just turned 73. It's just like I'm not gonna traditionally retire in a Eurocentric way. There's no retirement for me in that way. Even if I'm not able to walk the planet, I'll sit on the planet and be who I am, a wise woman, a woman of African descent. And sometimes I say a woman, a foundational woman, because I belong to a tribe here that is so different in the African American framework that we are our own tribe because of what we've gone through. Um, but now I can say without discomfort that I am wise, without shame or without saying, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't say that. You're being arrogant." And when I know I am wise at 73, I am wise past menopause. I am wise around grief. I am wise that I notice that death and life are similar. I am wise because I hear my mama talking to me and I recognize her voice. I am wise because I hear my grandmother and my great grandma Sally, who was a midwife, who was a root woman, who did hoodoo, who dug in the ground, who worked with the yellow fever people. I have that. They left that for me. So I carry the burning ashes as when you read about the cavemen, you had one person designated to carry the fire. I'm the one that carries the fire in my generation, in my family system. So let's flip it. And even though it was a painful, wounded family system, let's flip it. It also was rooted in joy. It was rooted in laughter. It was rooted in music. It was rooted in church. It was rooted in AME Zion Methodist. It was rooted in cornbread. It was rooted in those nurses' uniforms that the sisters used. It was rooted in that smelling salt when we had our funerals. It was rooted in songs of the gospel. It was rooted in those dramatic, wonderful funerals that only Black people could have. It was rooted in working and growing up in government housing. When we go out, we didn't have a swimming pool, but they turn on those fire hydrants like in New York, and we play like we was on the ocean. Never seen the ocean. It was rooted in all of that. So I bring in the pain and I bring in the joy, and the pain has not conquered me. Take a deep breath. Like they say, hallelujah. So when people talk to me about, they say, "Well, do you do Reiki?" I said, "Yeah, I do Reiki, but there's all these ancestral people working through me. That little color girl used to stand in a circle with Grandma Sally and Aunt Annie, and they would breathe deeply and they would hold hands and they would lay hands on my mama. That's when I got initiated. That was the initiation. They didn't call it Reiki. They didn't call it pranic. They didn't call it this. They just said, hallelujah. And they just breathed. And I was breathing with them. And I was looking up to them and stuff. I was the little colored girl. Pentecostal energy work. Call them back in. So I'm listening to you, sister. Anything you need to ask me.
Yeah, I told you we was gonna have a session tonight.
Woo! Yeah. Ah.
Absolutely beautiful. Well, it's a lot of people that go into the wellness business. And I don't think anybody has gone in with as much conviction as you, but give us some enlightenment on because, through these years, I've seen many students open up wellness businesses and close wellness businesses and try to put out wellness products and it doesn't work. Where is the staying power in wellness business from a practical point of view that young healers and young wellness entrepreneurs need to know?
I had a lot of shame about being paid for my work. Um, I mean, big time shame. And that was rooted out of my family system of, I mean, I don't have to go into all of it. There was a lot of shame. There was a lot of discrepancies. There was a lot of hardship with the relationship I had with my father and money and his alcoholism. And I noticed as I got older that shame and the some of the horrific things that I would go through when with him and money or him taking me to do shopping and whatnot, that I was always shamed of being that daughter who he had to take care of because of childcare, legal stuff that my mother had him under and stuff. And so when I grew up, I would actually blank out when signing a check. I mean, serious. I mean, serious trauma around that. Felt guilty, felt ashamed, felt little, felt not worthy. I did a lot of work free because then I didn't feel the shame if I did it free. I poured out of an empty vase when I didn't have anything to pour out of. I took care of other people first before I took care of myself. And that impacted business making. And one of the things that helped me is that, what is it, 1980 something is when I went into formal therapy. Now, I'm not telling everybody just listen, do you need to go to therapy? But there's a part of my mind, if you're African American woman raised in this culture and you've come from dysfunctional families, that you need to go to therapy on some levels. You need to get some help and whatnot. And I remember, therapeutically, a person said, sit down, write a check based on what you're worth. And I fell asleep right there in the session. That's how intense the trauma was around money and worth and receiving. I grew up around a grandmother who carried her money in her bra and in her garter belt. I had never gone to a bank. I didn't know how to write a check when I was in my 20s. All of that poverty mentality came with me around business making, and it devastated a lot of the stuff that I was trying to do. The other thing that impacted business making is my chronic depression. Like somebody else might know how to deal with it outside of a therapeutic process, but I didn't know how. It would take over me to the point where my daughter one time told me that they would think I was dead. I could not function. And then I would come back out of that and then I would function. But I had to notice those things and how it was personally taking the energy out of what I wanted to create in my life. So the family system around shame, worth, and money, being able to learn how to deal with it without being terrified. It's almost like I had to learn how to count. And also, my educational system was so racist. Numbers terrified me because I had terrifying white teachers. So I had to notice everything that affected me like that. One of the things that was a great thing, and I didn't recognize it until I got older, I was always around Black women who had some kind of they was always hustling on the side. They always was doing hair for money, or they was cooking food for rent money, or they was sewing and stuff. Or going over there to Miss Cora's house so she can do your hair for Easter and whatnot. They was making money on the side. That was my inspiration for business. What they did, my Aunt Viola had a speakeasy. She had a bar in the neighborhood. She was the middle class relative. And I hung out with her and stuff, but they never took time or they didn't have the emotional time to say, girl, this is what you do to maintain this. So I saw them start businesses and I saw them suffer because I think that they had some of the same issues that I developed as I got older. I had to have enough, how can I say, courage to ask for help. You
Mhm.
know, for instance, my computer guy is a coach because I have issues around numbers and technology, and that goes back to my alcoholic family system. And so he'll often say, you want to take a deep breath? And I take a deep breath when I get stuck on something. I have created a support system that takes care of all of my woundedness on so many levels. I had to have somebody come in the house to paint, and somebody paint my office. They were men who were healers, so they could respect my space. I didn't want any man to come in there because I'm a survivor of violent sexual assault. Every Wednesday, I call someone, it's called my accountability partner. And we talk about what's been hard around the business, what's been easy, what's not working well, or whatever, because I can't afford to carry my shit and mess around without having somebody else be able to mindfully listen to me and pay attention. I hope this makes sense.
It does. Absolutely. I'm taking notes.
You know, because if you
I'm
ain't got
taking
somebody,
notes.
you ain't got somebody that's going to pay attention to you. And the person that I do this with, we've been doing this for with her particular. We met around what 15 or 20 years ago in a group setting in the RC community, reevaluating co-counseling. But we've been doing this one-on-one accountability now for about what 4 or 5 years, and we show up. Now, it's not just sitting there and I'm listening to her or she's listening to me. It's the showing up, it's the healing. It's the showing up. It's the action of showing up that someone thinks I'm that important that they're going to show up. Because the family system I was in, they did not always have the resources to show up. And that was the divination. You can have somebody physically there married to you or mothering you or whatever, but if they don't show up by spirit and emotional, they ain't there. So I built a relationship with recovery communities. I go 12-step programs because I'm an adult child of alcoholic. I do the RC stuff. I have my other therapeutic processes. People who help me with things, the close people in my ranks are like-minded people because I don't have time to convince people that they're not free. I can cry and grieve out loud. I'm going to say that again. I can cry and grieve. I've got people who can hold that space. And I know that's a blessing because there's a lot of people that we know are walking around. Nobody has heard them, given them time, held space, create space, and noticed them deeply. Because it's the noticing that makes a difference. The body changes when someone's paying attention to it. The body changes, every organ changes when you pay attention to your body and someone else is paying attention therapeutically to you. When I put my hands on someone's organ or their heart, that heart meets me halfway. It speaks back. When someone shows up and says, "You are worth enough to me that at 6 o'clock, I'm going to be here meeting you at the campfire," and I heal a little bit more. I am never alone. And it doesn't have to be with blood family because sometimes blood family, they don't have the resources to show up. It's that spirit family. It's that person struggling to save their own lives that know when they show up for you, they show up for themselves. Friendships are important. You got to have somebody to tell your business to, and they ain't going to tell everybody else's business about you. Somebody you can trust. You got to be around people who don't gossip. You got to make sure you don't gossip because the energy recycles into your business. You've got to figure out how to have boundaries. We can't sleep with everybody we love. That's my experience. That's my lived experience. Because I used to sleep around because that's all I knew from my family system. But how many sisters do we know in the Houston community have been hurt? And we walk around with these secrets. So I'm getting a little deeper now.
Yes. Yes.
Secrets will destroy your business on all levels. Secrets always come out to the light. Secrets are attracted to the light. So somewhere we've got to cushion more trust in building businesses. Businesses with sisters and brothers, businesses and how we support other businesses, businesses with ourselves, because you can't just have a 9 to 5 business or a business doing massage or a business doing colonics or a business doing that if your personal business is messy.
Mhm.
If we're trying to build this world that we think that we deserve, a planet that we are not racially oppressed for the next 3 centuries, we've got to come together in a way that we have never seen the respect that we need now. We've got to do not to do any backstabbing. We've got to learn how not to attack each other and still disagree. We've got to have boundaries around domestic violence. And I'm talking about the activist community now. Because we see ourselves as the people who are setting an example of how to live, how to love each other as Black people. But we are still kicking each other's ass. We are still cheating on each other in our marriages. We call it polygamy, but that's not polygamy. Like I said, I'm 73, right? So I've been around the corner at least 73 times. I've seen a lot of people devastated by personal relationships.
Absolutely.
Leads right into their business. Sad. We've got to be able to be accountable and we got to be able to make amends. Not past, not just saying I'm sorry, but you can say I'm sorry, but that doesn't make you got to make amends and you got to change. We've got to be softer with each other. We got to notice our jealousies because that comes from insecurity and low self-esteem. We got to notice how to ask and say, "Hey, sis, I need some help." We've got to know how to say no. I'm not able to do that. I don't have the resources to do that, sis. I don't have the notice what I'm saying. I don't have the resources to do that. maybe this can happen, or maybe somebody else, but I don't have the resources to do that. Because when we say no with love, it helps that person heal.
Mhm, mhm.
Because if you say yes without the love, you're going to be resentful. If I do 5 massages free, I'm going to be pissed off eventually. Because those 5 massages going to manifest in my light bill. I've got to know when my spirit is saying that I need to volunteer and do something free. There is a difference. Well, when I was younger, there was no difference. Everything was give, 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 give. I got to give because I'm not black enough if I don't give, 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 give. And I attracted myself to the same kind of dysfunctional person or people that I was. We fed off of each other. Codependency is a bad piece of medicine for building a business. You got to know who the client is and who the client is not. You got to know what kind of hat to wear. A lot of times we can know each other. Like I know I probably can wear 1 or 2 more hats with you. But if I didn't know you as long as I've known you, I couldn't do that because it gets all mixed up and messed up. So we have to be careful with that. Am I making sense?
You are. And, when it comes to the practicalness of business, everything that I've heard you say deals with the spiritual practicalness of business. And I think that that is so often overlooked
Mhm.
because I heard you say, first and foremost, you got to deal with your stuff. And if you don't deal with your stuff, then your stuff is going to spill over into what you do in your wellness business. I heard you talk about a support system. And that is a lot of things that people fail to have for themselves is a support system, even within their own families. I heard you talk about being having an accountability partner
Mhm.
and how that person knows what your business plan is. You trust them and they hold you accountable for what you say you're going to do in your business. I also heard you say, even when you think you have worked on your stuff, work on your stuff some more.
It's not ending. I think people say, well, when I
Yes.
get healed, well, it's a journey. That's Earth is a relational planet. This is a journey. You know you have healed something in a way when you feel released and you're doing something without the shit attached to it. But that doesn't that we have to create a different definition of what healing is. It's enlightenment. I'm more I have more enlightenment this year than I did last year. And I know there's a better way to describe it, but do you see where I'm coming from? It's like
I
we're
do.
looking
I
like we
do.
will have this stuff together by this Sunday. No, 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 no. Not going to be fruit by this Sunday. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
I do understand.
Mhm.
Well, this information, I'm sure some of our healers that listen to the recording of this, those that are watching live, it's definitely something to think about. So I greatly appreciate you coming to us with this perspective because this perspective is not talked about in our wellness business classes, in our coaching classes, in our counseling classes that we do in terms of putting businesses out there. So I think that this is a very, very good perspective. And let me just tap these last 3 points before I let you go this evening. You said your energy, and this is I'm gonna quote this because this one is very profound. Your energy recycles into your business. So if your energy is messed up, your business is going to be messed up, no matter how much good intentions you
Yes.
have.
Yeah.
And then
And
you
it's how it
also
happens.
said, and then you also said your secrets, those things you're doing behind closed doors that don't nobody know about, can also destroy your business.
Yeah.
And then that goes all the way back to your first point, which is deal with your stuff
Mhm.
first. I so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I so appreciate that. So, Mama Hitaji, I want to thank you very much for coming in and speaking with us during this time of A Life of Peace's 20th anniversary. And you, my sister, have definitely made a mark, an impact, and you are definitely leaving a legacy
Thank
among
you.
us. And we greatly appreciate that. Any closing words before we go?
Well, I love you truly. I respect you. You have motivated me, um, inspired me, and so consistent with your work. And we all appreciate you. If I had some flowers, I'd give them to you. I can't throw them through Zoom, but I will bless you with some sun
Received. Absolutely received.
and take care, everybody.
Thank you. Peace and blessings, beautiful one. We will talk soon, okay?
Right
And
on
thank you
time.
again. All right.
Bye
Peace.
bye. Right
Bye-bye.
on time. Now I got to figure
Yes.
out how to get off of Zoom.
Okay. Good night.